Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mail Bag, the mailbag show here on AMC Movie News, where all we do is take your questions that you sent in to us. My name is John Campia. I am the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, and I am so glad to be back in studio, back once again. I've missed you guys. As many of you know, I've been gone all week. I was off in Las Vegas for the annual huge film convention called CinemaCon. And CinemaCon is not like Comic-Con or other events like that where fans can go and see stuff. CinemaCon is actually put on by the National Association of Theater Owners. And it's for all the movie theaters. So companies that sell like movie theater equipment and concession stuff and, you know, seating and projection, but also all the studios go to CinemaCon. Pardon me. All the studios go to CinemaCon and they show off all the films that they've got coming up over the next, few months and over the next year and stuff like that. And that's why I go to these things, because I love going and seeing all this stuff and seeing, all the previews and all the advanced trailers and footage. They showed us a lot of footage. They screened like 3 different movies I saw while I was there. I saw the new Kevin Costner film, Draft Day. I saw the new Seth Rogen, Zac Efron film, Neighbors. And I saw the new John Hamm film, and I can't remember the name of it. I think it's $1 Million Arm. I think that's the name of the film. And I can't talk much about it because I signed an embargo that says I can't talk about those movies and that kind of stuff. But I can say that I saw them, as well as a lot of footage from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a bunch of things, and had a very good time. So listen, I want to let you guys know that I have lined up a whole bunch of questions here for the show today, taking your email questions and stuff like that. But I also want to let you know that at the end of the show, we will be taking your questions via the Twitter stream. So if you have a Twitter account, and I hope you do, because it's really super easy. It's free. A lot of people will complain and say, John, but I don't have a Twitter account. It's like, okay, yeah, but Twitter's free. Just go sign up for it. It's easy. I'm going to be taking questions after we're done with the mailbag questions. I'm going to be taking your questions on Twitter live. So if you're watching live right now, you can tweet your questions to AMC or at AMC Movie News. So tweet your questions live to at AMC Movie News. And I'll take some live questions from the Twitter stream at the end of the show. Don't start sending them in yet, because, your question is going to get pushed all the way down. So wait until near the end of the show and then start throwing your questions in there. So once again, you can tweet questions near the end of the show to at AMC Movie News. Normally, though, the way you get your questions on our show, though, is by emailing them to us. You can email us 24/7 at AMC or to amcmovietalk@gmail.com. That's where you email your questions to. And then every day on AMC Movie Talk and on the weekends on AMC Mailbag, we pull questions out of the email to address on the show. And I've got a bunch of them lined up here today that we're going to be taking as well. But before we get into the questions, I wanted to talk about this. A couple of things that came up. Number one, very interesting thing happened the last couple of days. The Disney animated film Frozen. Been in theater almost 5 months. Been in theater almost 5 months. And just a week or two ago, it finally dropped out of the top 10 at the box office. Crazy legs. It has now become the number 3 film domestically for 2013. Remember, the film came out in 2013. And therefore, since it came out in 2013, it is still counted as a 2013 film. So Frozen, you can see here on the box office list for the year 2013, passes Man of Steel, passes Despicable Me 2, and becomes the number 3 film domestically at the box office, taking almost $400 million. But what's interesting is this, if you look at the international worldwide numbers, like overall, including North America and overseas, Iron Man 3 is actually the number 1 film of 2013, and Frozen is now actually the number 2 film of 2013 worldwide, ahead of Hunger Games: Catching Fire. So I thought that is really interesting. And on another side note, Frozen has now officially become the number 1 animated film box office of all time. Let that sink in for a second. Frozen has become the #1 all-time box office animated film. We're talking about films like Toy Story 3. We're talking about films like Lion King and all the greatest films of all time, animated films of all time. The #1 box office one, though, is Frozen. There's just, look, obviously Frozen is not the best animated film of all time. It's just not. I wouldn't put it in the top 3. I don't even know that it would be in the top 5. But there's something about Frozen that made it have incredible legs, that just made it have staying power like crazy. You know, it got in theater and people just kept going to see it. And the longer it stuck around, more and more people were spreading the word that, hey, this is a good movie. You should take your kids to go see it. And more people would go see it. Why doesn't it work like that for every animated film for kids? No idea. Why did it work for Frozen? Not sure. But Frozen is a very good movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I had a lot of fun with it. It's not, going to end up being in, my all-time greatest animated films of all time list, but it was a very good movie. But there's something about it. And I'm telling you right now, there are studio executives and think tanks and consultants in the entertainment world, all over the world right now, analyzing Frozen as to why it had the legs it had. It's like in its 19th or 20th week of release. It's already out on home video, and it's still in the top 20 at the box office. I mean, it's just crazy the legs this movie had. So that was kind of an interesting thing to look at and to point out. Another thing for us to look at here that I want to look at before we get... Two other things I want to talk about before we get to the mailbag questions. Number one is some people have been asking, hey, when is AMC Versus coming back? AMC Versus makes its return next Monday. We were going to maybe try to bring it back tomorrow, like this Monday, but I just got back from Vegas. Like literally, I just pulled into Burbank this morning. Last night, I was out. I made it as far as Corona, and I stayed at our house there and did yesterday's mailbag from the garage there. But I just pulled back into Burbank this morning, not ready to do it tomorrow. So we're going to do AMC Versus. We'll return tomorrow. But AMC Versus is going to look a lot different than it did before. Because, AMC Versus was a new show and looking at it, and I love trying new things because I'm not afraid to try something and go, okay, that didn't work. Let's move on. And so we tried AMC Versus, and there's a lot of things about Versus I like very much, but there's certain things about Versus that I didn't think worked very well. And so what we've done is we've taken Versus and we've reworked it. So it's going to kind of more look like this, where you guys, the fans, are going to have a lot more input into what the outcome of Versus is going to be. And here's how it's going to work now. Instead of having it be a debate in Versus, it's going to be like this. Let's take, I think, the last Versus we did, which was, what was the best comedy of 2012? 21 Jump Street or Ted, right? Remember that one? Okay, so let's pretend that's the same issue, right? What Versus will look like now is, we'll have a panel of 3 or 4 people, and then we'll have this issue. What's the best comedy of 2012? Ted or 21 Jump Street? And instead of debating the issue, what we'll do is we'll have all 3 or 4 people on the panel each say, here's why, here's what 21 Jump Street has going for it. And then everybody will say, here's what Ted has going for it. And then everybody will say, here's what 21 Jump Street has going against it. And then everybody will talk about all the things Ted has going against it. And we'll lay out all the positives and negatives, both sides. And then each one of the four of us who are on the panel will say what we personally vote for at the end. So we'll say, okay, having talked about all the positives and negatives about both films, I, John Cabia, am going to give my verdict for Ted. And then, John Schnepp will say, and I, after all the positives and negatives, will say, I give my vote for 21 Jump Street. And then Dennis will say, I give my vote for 21 Jump Street. And then Aaron will say, I give my vote for 21 Jump Street. And then we'll say, okay, but that doesn't mean anything really. It's all about the viewer vote. You've heard us talk about the positives and the negatives. You've heard what we vote, but the only thing that counts now is your vote. And then what will happen is you guys will vote on the results. And it will be 100% your vote. So that is the reworked AMC Versus. We're all pretty happy with the changes that we've made to it, and so we're going to start it next week, next Monday. Really looking forward to it. I hope you guys will check it out and participate by voting as well. I'm not sure what the issue is going to be yet. We're going to decide that in the next couple of days, but we will let you know soon what the process is going to be. Now, the other thing is, a bunch of people have been asking me about the March Movie Madness. The round 3 results of March Movie Madness will be announced tomorrow on AMC Movie Talk, along with the round 4 matchups. So that gets picked up again tomorrow. I've had so much fun with the March Movie Madness tournament. I have had so much fun, and I cannot believe how many of you guys have been participating and voting. It's just been crazy good. So good, in fact, that we're talking about maybe doing like 3 of these tournaments a year. And probably our next Movie Madness tournament will be in a few months, and I think the topic will probably be best animated film of all time. And we'll do it the same way. We'll set up the top 32. We'll break it into 2 brackets, each with a number 1 seed all the way down to number 16 seed. Same way. Then maybe at some point we'll do a tournament for best action films of the 90s and do it that way. Either way, I've had so much fun doing this tournament, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from you guys about the March Movie Madness tournament as well. And you guys have apparently really been enjoying it as well. So we're going to do it probably 3 times a year. And maybe even make it a part of Versus instead of as a part of AMC Movie Talk. Who knows? We got a lot of things that we're talking about and discussing over here at AMC Movie News. A lot of cool things happening that I'm really excited about. So thanks a lot for coming along and all of your input. And believe me, guys, your input that you've given us about all the various shows, including AMC Versus and the tournament and all that kind of stuff, your input has a direct impact on what we do. Because while we make the decisions about what to do, we listen to what you guys, the fans, say. And we listen to all the input that you guys give us. And then we weigh it out and we make changes appropriately. So thank you so much for your participation in the process. And thank you. And know the fact that these changes we're making to Versus, you guys are directly a part of the changes that we've made. So thank you so much for participating in AMC Movie News and giving us your feedback. It's been great. So with all of that being said, we've got a bunch of questions to get to today in AMC Mailbag. So let's start with the first question today. And the first question today comes to us from, I believe it's from Luke Bryant. Yes, Luke Bryant. And Luke Bryant writes, "Hey AMC, I love the show. This is the one and only place I get my movie news. My question is regarding the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trailer. It is my understanding that TMNT will show a trailer before Captain America this coming Friday. Will it be a different trailer, or will it be the same one they've just released online? Thanks, guys, and keep up the good work." Well, thanks a lot for the question, Luke. Yeah, it's kind of become, it's kind of become the standard now with trailer releases and things like that, that when a trailer is going to get released in theater, generally speaking, a few days before, they release the trailer online first. And I think they released Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles online a few days earlier than normal because they showed it to us at CinemaCon first. They showed us this trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at CinemaCon back on Monday, I believe. And so they decided to put it out online for the public the very next day. Since all of us who are at CinemaCon were going to be talking about it, they thought we might as well put it online now. So I am under the assumption that the trailer that we're going to see for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in front of Captain America the Winter Soldier, which, by the way, go see Captain America the Winter Soldier. It's that good. It's that good. Hey, I'll get to Captain America in a little bit, but yeah, I fully anticipate that the trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that they'll play in front of Captain America will be the same trailer they've released online, because that is kind of business as usual in Hollywood right now. Usually they release the trailer 2 or 3 days ahead of when it comes in theater online, so the movie going online audience can see it, and then it pops up in theater. So I don't think there's any reason to believe why it won't be the same trailer that we've got now. So that will be the one that you see in front of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Ruben Martinez, who writes, "Hello, everyone. I love the show." Thanks so much, Ruben. "I watch you guys almost every day. I was watching Mailbag this Saturday, and I hear John explain why it is highly impractical and hence never likely to happen that Marvel would buy back the rights to Spider-Man to put him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And sadly, he's right. But what about a Kickstarter to fund the transfer of Spider-Man to Marvel? I mean, Veronica Mars the movie happens, so why not a Kickstarter to something that will actually be good and the fans actually want to see? Thank you, guys." Thanks a lot for the question, Ruben. And yeah, what he's talking about, for those of you who didn't see AMC Movie Talk yesterday, we addressed the question about once again, this comes up a lot. And for those of you who watch AMC Movie News and AMC Movie Talk, this type of question comes up a lot, but it's worth addressing because a lot of people still ask about it. The question about, a lot of people talk about wanting to see Spider-Man in the Avengers and see him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the fact of the matter is that is just not going to happen. And it's probably never going to happen. Well, never say never, but it is highly unlikely to ever happen for a couple of reasons. Number one, Spider-Man is just too valuable to Sony. Spider-Man makes Sony oodles of money. And I'll be honest with you, as a fan, I think Sony has done a damn fine job with Spider-Man. Aside from Spider-Man 3, which was a big bowl of steaming crap. But aside from Spider-Man 3, I believe Sony has done an excellent job with the Spider-Man films, including The Amazing Spider-Man. And I'm going to tell you, Amazing Spider-Man 2 may end up being the best of all the Spider-Man movies. I'm not allowed to talk much about it. But all that being said, the whole idea of Marvel can't get it back because Spider-Man makes Sony so much money, they would put a ridiculously high price tag on the character for Marvel to buy him back. And we explained yesterday how for Marvel, it makes no sense to buy him back because it wouldn't make them any more money. And when would they wouldn't even have time to make any Spider-Man movies. Look, Kevin Feige's already said their goal is to do 2 Marvel films a year. They've already got Iron Man going, Thor, Captain America. Now they got Ant-Man. They're going to have Guardians of the Galaxy. We know Doctor Strange is coming. We got the Avengers. We've got Hulk. We've got we know they want to do Black Panther. They've got all these characters and more. But Kevin Feige says, we're going to do 2 a year. Any more is just too much for us to handle to maintain the level of quality we want to put out. So, when on earth would they do a Spider-Man movie? And it would certainly not make them any money. I mean, because like we said before, Avengers, everybody who saw Avengers 2 saw Spider-Man. And everybody who saw Spider-Man saw Avengers. Sorry, I should be saying Avengers, not Avengers 2. And so if you put Spider-Man in Avengers 2, there's nobody left to attract in. Everybody who's a Spider-Man fan is already going to see Avengers 2. So it won't make a lick of difference. Not a lick of difference to Marvel. And Marvel knows this, and Kevin Feige's kind of explained this before, and he's right. So what we've got here now is Ruben raises an interesting question. Okay, if it doesn't make financial sense for Marvel to go and to pay what they would have to pay to bring in Spider-Man because it really won't make them that much more money anyway, and they're going to end up losing money on the deal. Because I'm telling you right now, Sony's going to make $1 billion just on Spider-Man 2 alone. Then they got Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 4, they got a Venom movie coming, and they got a Sinister Six movie coming. You're looking at potentially $5 billion worth of business. All right? What do you think Sony's going to put a price tag on Spider-Man for? Huh? What, like, you think so? Yeah, I think, I know Ruben's not saying this, but I've talked to some people who were like, yeah, I think Sony would sell Spider-Man for $100 million. Are you mental? Yeah, they could make as much as $5 billion off the Spider-Man name over the next 4 years. And you think they're going to sell Spider-Man back to Marvel for $100 million, $500 million, $1 billion, $2 billion, $4 billion? I've always said that I believe that if Sony were to sell Spider-Man, it would probably be around the $3 billion range. But I'm going to tell you what, if Spider-Man 2 makes $1 billion plus on its own, that price tag could go up. So it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I think if Sony was willing to sell Spider-Man back to Marvel for $100 million, I think Kevin Feige gets on the phone and cuts the check himself right away and makes that deal. But it's not. It's going to be around $3 billion, or it's going to be more. Because it would just be stupid for Sony to let it go for any less than that when they know they're going to make $3 to $5 billion on the Spider-Man franchise just in the next 5 years. And when you're buying corporations and business properties of this magnitude, you're not just thinking about what does this make in the next 2 years or 3 years or 5. You're thinking, what does this make in the next 10 years? And that's how you put a valuation on something. Anyway, all that being said, Ruben raises a very interesting question then. Well, what if there wasn't a dollar sign attached to it? What if Marvel went to Kickstarter and ask the fans to pay for buying it back from Marvel, and then Marvel gets it, and then therefore it doesn't cost Marvel anything. And then any extra dollars they make on Spider-Man movies moving forward is just profit. They did it for Veronica Mars. Remember, Veronica Mars couldn't get greenlit. And so the filmmakers went to the studio and said, well, what if we went to the fans and asked the fans to pay for it? And if they put up a couple of $1 million to produce this film, can we greenlight it then? And the studio said, sure. They went to the fans. The fans donated, $2+ million to them so they could get the movie made. And that's all great. But there's a couple of issues here that I want to bring up. Number one, there's a far cry from, that was really the first time a major property like Veronica Mars, and Veronica Mars isn't major compared to Batman or compared to the Avengers or compared to Indiana Jones, but I mean, it's a worldwide recognizable title, right? So if it was the first one ever to go to Kickstarter, and I think there was a novelty factor about that. And so that had a little bit of success, and it raised a couple $1 million, and that's great. But that's a far cry from Marvel needing to raise, and we're all talking hypotheticals here because this will never happen, but in the world of hypotheticals, that's a far cry from asking fans to raise $2 billion, raise $3 billion, whatever. That I don't think can happen. That just can't happen. But the other thing, and this is the bigger issue for me, and this is my issue, John Campea, not AMC's, not anybody else on AMC, the AMC Movie News staff. I know it's got to make the folks at AMC nervous when I say, this is my opinion and not AMC's, because I was like, oh my God, what is John going to say? But here it is. I think you're a sucker if you donate money to millionaires. I think you're a sucker. I think the studios are more than happy and overjoyed with the idea as a billion-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar corporation run by multi-millionaires with multi-millionaire actors and multi-millionaire producers and multi-millionaire directors. They love the notion that you and I are just suckers. It's like, you know what? We want to make a Veronica Mars movie. And the Veronica Mars movie turned out pretty good, by the way. Played exclusively in AMC. But I got to say what I think. And what I think is this. I think if you donate money to millionaires and billionaires so they can go and make things to make them more millions and billions, and you foot the bill, I think you're a sucker. I think you're a doob. I think this the whole idea of studios getting to turn to us and get us to pay for their multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar projects that we don't see any of the profits from. They keep all the profits. This isn't like investment. Investment would be different. If Marvel came to the fans, this would be an interesting concept. I think if Marvel were to come to the fans and say, hey, we want to buy back Spider-Man. And once again, this is never going to happen. We're talking in theoreticals, but it's fun to talk in theoreticals. If Marvel were to come to us and say, we want to buy back Spider-Man, but we want to raise the money to do it. We need $3 billion. So what we're going to do is ask you, the fans, to put up the money. And you will then own a certain percentage for every $100 you put in for Marvel's efforts to buy back Spider-Man. You will earn 0.001% of any profits a future Spider-Man movie makes. So they say, if you put in $1,000, you get 0.1% of any future profits a Marvel Spider-Man movie makes. So in the sense that there's some ownership there, and we stand as fans to gain if our donation, well, it's not a donation anymore, but if our contribution to the cause ends up making Marvel money, then we make money as well. That's more like a stock ownership situation, right? I'm all for that. I think that's great. I think what I'm all for is people who put up the money, who assume the risk, are the ones to reap the rewards. Then I'm good with that. But in a Kickstarter situation, Marvel buying back Spider-Man, who assumes all the cost and all the risk? Us. Who reaps all the rewards? The people we gave the money to. We don't see any of the rewards. then I cannot stand it. I cannot stand it. Kickstarter should be used for filmmakers. Like, I'm a little biased here because John Schnepp is a friend of mine, but Kickstarter is meant for projects like filmmakers like John Schnepp, who is not a multimillionaire, but who is a talented filmmaker and wants to bring, let's say, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened to us, because he thinks it's a great story. It makes a great documentary and audiences would love it. Kickstarters for guys like that who don't possibly have the money to make a feature project like that, and to come to Kickstarter and ask for assistance, and we want to help assist the creative community, so we give some money for them to do it. It's a different beast, I think, when we're talking about multimillionaires and multi-billionaire corporations who get us suckers to pay for their multi-million-dollar and multi-billion-dollar profits. That makes us suckers. Not like helping independent musicians, independent inventors, independent filmmakers who are not millionaires and would never be able to pull off these great ideas if not for the help from the community. That's what Kickstarter is for. Not for us to extra line the pockets of multimillionaires already. Let them pay for their own projects because they got the money if they want to do it. So anyway, I've ranted on about this a little bit too long. I apologize. But anyway, that's just the way I see it. That's not necessarily the way you need to see it or the way other people see it, and that's cool. But I'm the guy in front of the camera with the microphone, so I'm going to tell you what my opinion is, and that's my opinion. Anyway, okay, let's move on to the third question today. And the third question today, hopefully no more ranting, comes from Aaron. And Aaron writes, where is it? I lost it for a second. Okay, there we go. Aaron writes, my question is about the future Star Trek movies. The first two movies were quite dark and serious, but do you think there is a chance that we might get a more comedic Star Trek adventure like Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home? The chemistry between Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, and the other cast members is just great. They all work perfectly with each other, and I would love to see them in a more lighthearted Star Trek movie, where this chemistry would show its potential for comedy. What do you think? Well, Aaron, I both agree with you and disagree with you. I agree with you totally in the sense that the chemistry between this cast is great. The comedic potential with this new Star Trek cast is great. And look, I'm never afraid to tell you when I'm right, and I'm never afraid to tell you when I'm wrong. And I was wrong about Star Trek. Like when the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie was announced, I said this is going to bomb. Star Trek is a dead franchise. Blah, blah, blah. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be awful. And then it came out. It was awesome, and I loved it. And I really liked the second one as well. I know some people poo-pooed on Star Trek Into Darkness. I really like Star Trek Into Darkness. I thought it was really good. I loved it, as a matter of fact. And I love this cast. So, Aaron, I completely agree with you that this cast has great chemistry, that they have great comedic potential. But where I will disagree with you is the fact that they have been dark films. I don't think they have been. I think they have taken advantage of the great humor and stuff like that, especially with Bones. Bones has been a great comedic piece, but I think Spock has been used great comedically. I think Kirk has been used great comedically. I think while they've certainly had dark elements to them, they've also maintained that Star Trek signature humor in it as well at the same time. And so I got to tell you, I think they're doing it. So I agree with you completely. There should be comedy in it, and they have great potential for comedy. I agree. But what I disagree with you about is that they haven't utilized it yet. I feel like they have. And I feel like they've had a really nice balance between the action and dramatic and the comedic. And I think that's one of the reasons why the new Star Trek films have worked so well for me. So that's just my opinion. That's the way I see it. But you guys have seen the films as well. Leave your comments in the comment section below and let us know what you think. So let's move on to the next question. The fourth question today comes to us from Polly Sarah, who writes, hi, gang. Love you all. Thanks so much, Polly. Great to have you back, Mr. Campia. It is great to be back. When will we hear more about Cable and the X-Force for the upcoming X-Men Apocalypse? Now that Days of Future Past is here, I was hoping to have heard some movement on the project. Have you heard any? For those of you who don't know what Polly is talking about, Fox, what I would call a soft announcement. Fox kind of made a soft announcement that they're moving ahead to try to develop an X-Force film. Now, for those of you who don't know who Cable is is one hell of a badass comic book character. He's great. Now, who he literally is, he is the son of Cyclops. And you know what? I think he was also the son of Madeline Pryor, not Jean Grey. Help me out in the chat board. I believe it was Madeline Pryor who was Jean Grey's, doppelganger. But help me out in the chat board. I believe Cable is the son of Scott Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, not Jean Grey. But at any rate, so let's go with that assumption. So he's born, but then he's kidnapped as a baby. Cable is kidnapped as a baby and taken into the future. And in the future, he grows up as a hardened war dude. I mean, he's just a badass warrior, and he leads the battle against Apocalypse in the future. He's infected with this thing called the technovirus. He is theoretically the most powerful mutant in the world, but most of his power is normally kept in check because his power has to be used constantly to fight off this technovirus that he has. And anyway, it goes back and forth, and people in the chat board are confirming, yeah, it was Madeline Pryor. So anyway, so then Cable comes back to the present. He's this badass warrior. And anyway, at some point he starts leading this group called X-Force that have had different members in it along the way, including Wolverine and Deadpool and Domino and a whole bunch of other people. I believe like Colossus is in it right now. And anyway, they've had a lot of members, right? So it's kind of an offshoot team from X-Men. And so is the X-Force. The X-Force is like an offshoot team of X-Men, okay? So all that being said, it's in the same universe as the X-Men. There's quite a few member exchanges, like X-Men have become X-Force members and vice versa, and all that kind of stuff. So it was announced that, Waldo, I always say Waldo, Jeff Wadlow, who is the director of Kick-Ass 2, went to Mark Millar, who is kind of overseeing Marvel films at Fox, and pitched him this idea for X-Force. And one of the things he said to Mark Millar is absolutely true. He said, look, you start with a team. You don't start with individuals. Start with a team. He said, Marvel already did their thing was start with individual movies and then team them up in Avengers. We don't need to do that. Start with a team and then move forward. And, and I agree with that completely. I believe you can just start with the team and then go forward. And to everybody who would say to me, and I get a lot of people who would email me and say, no, John, you need each individual they need to have their own individual films first. You need their background story. You need this, blah, 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 blah. Really? Worked for A-Team fine. A-Team, I'm just thinking of various team type movies, right? A-Team didn't need an individual Templeton Peck Faceman movie. They didn't need an individual Howling Mad Murdoch movie. They didn't need a B.A. Baracus movie and then a Hannibal Smith movie, and then they come together for the A-Team. The Losers didn't need that. I thought The Losers was a great movie, by the way. X-Men didn't need it. You didn't have an individual Charles Xavier movie followed by an individual Storm movie followed by an individual Cyclops movie followed by an individual Rogue movie. You didn't, and then they did the X-Men. No, they just started, boom, X-Men, and it was awesome. Changed the face of the comic book superhero genre movies forever. You don't need to have individual movies first. You can start with a team. So I completely agree with Jeff Wadlow on that. And so Wadlow had this idea of X-Force, pitched it to Mark Millar. Millar loved it. Millar took it to the head of Fox, and he loved it, and they started to develop it. But we haven't heard anything since. So whether they're still moving forward, I don't know. Now, Fox did say they reserved a mystery movie for this date. I believe it's May 2016. And some people are speculating that that's going to be X-Force. May 2016 is going to be X-Force. I don't think it is, but I'm just guessing. I'm just theorizing. I could totally be wrong. I'm not really convinced of this, but I think that 2016 date is going to be the first Fantastic Four X-Men crossover film. In which they could introduce X-Force. But some people believe, no, that will be the standalone X-Force movie. But you bring up in your question, you're asking Paulie about Age of Apocalypse. And nobody has said anything about X-Force being a part of the X-Men Apocalypse movie. As far as I know, nobody said that X-Force is going to be in that. So I don't know why you're assuming that. Maybe you've heard something I haven't, but I'm pretty sure they haven't said that yet. It's possible they could, but as far as I know, X-Men Apocalypse is going to be its own standalone X-Men film. I believe. So we'll see about that. So have we heard anything new? As far as I know, I haven't heard anything new about X-Force in the last couple of months, but that's all the background that I have on it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Here's the big question that a lot of us have been asking is, if they do X-Force, will Deadpool be in it? That's a big question, because Deadpool's a part of X-Force for much of it. Anyway, not always. And him and Cable have a really interesting relationship. The problem is, it would be really smart to put him in because he's a very popular character amongst comic book fans. But the problem is, he's also a very R-rated character, and they ain't going to make X-Force R-rated. So do you neuter Deadpool a little bit and tame him so that he fits in a PG world? Or do you save him for his own standalone at some point and go full R? I honestly don't know what the answer to that is, but it's an interesting dilemma that they've got going on. All right, so let's move on to the next question. And the next question we have today comes to us from Alejandro, who writes, "Hello, guys. I'm really hoping my question can get answered." Well, here we are. "I'm really hoping my question get answered before Captain America: The Winter Soldier is released in the US. I was curious as to if there was going to be a reason why Captain America wasn't in Iron Man 3 saving the president, besides the obvious reasons that it wasn't his movie. Thanks, and have a great day." Alejandro, this is the question that came up that I said was going to be a problem and everybody would be asking after we did Avengers. Because shortly after Avengers came out, even before Avengers came out, creating the shared universe, I said one of the problems that they're going to face moving forward now is everybody's going to be asking, well, in this Iron Man movie, why didn't Hulk come and help? And then in this Hawkeye movie, why doesn't Black Widow and Captain America come and help? And then in this Hulk movie, why doesn't Thor come and help Hulk? I mean, I said that's going to be a problem. I said tons of people are going to be writing these all the time. The simplest answer, Alejandro, is to what you actually brought up in your email yourself, because it wasn't Captain America's movie. It's the Iron Man movie. And we just have to, as film fans, get our heads around that we can't expect Marvel to have to give us an explanation about why all the other Avengers don't show up in the individual films. We just have to go in understanding this is Captain America's movie. This is Iron Man's movie. That is Thor's movie. Like when the war in Thor 2 came to Earth and they were attacking London, why didn't Iron Man come to help? Because it wasn't an Iron Man movie. It's a Thor movie, and he's dealing with it. And I've had a lot of people asking, look, Hawkeye is not in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And I'm not kidding, I've had minimum 50 emails from people or tweets from people asking, what? Well, hey, it doesn't say here on IMDb that Hawkeye's in. Why isn't Hawkeye there? Because it's not a Hawkeye movie. They decided to put Black Widow in it. They explain why she's there, but Marvel doesn't feel the need to have to explain why each individual Avenger isn't in each individual film. And we just have to accept that. And that's one of the hard parts about doing the film. Now, if you want to get practical, in Iron Man 3, remember that whole movie, I believe, takes place in about 72 hours. And most of the information in that movie, only Tony knows. So you remember, it happened all very quickly. Because we watch a movie and we can have this assumption, okay, this takes place over the course of 3 or 4 weeks. No, I believe, unless I'm wrong, that, Iron Man 3 takes place like within a 72-hour window. And so there really wasn't time for everybody to figure out and discover what's going on and who knows what and whatever. Then so really, practically, that did kind of make sense to me anyway. But we have to assume moving forward that we can't expect Marvel to give us a full explanation as to why each individual Avenger doesn't come and show up in this guy's movie. Why? Because it's this guy's movie. Just let him have his movie. Let's accept that and move on and understand that that we will see them all together again in Avengers. But getting them all together again is for the Avengers, not for their individual films. So that's the way I kind of see it. But, and would it be bad to have one of their key guys show up in each other's movies? No. But you just want to make sure that if you have Captain America show up in an Iron Man film, that it is still very clearly Iron Man's movie. If you have a Hawkeye or a Black Widow show up in a Captain America movie, that it is still very clearly a Captain America movie. And that's one of the things that Captain America: The Winter Soldier does really well. We all know that Black Widow is in Captain America: Winter Soldier. We all know Falcon is in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. But when you watch Captain America, the Winter Soldier, you'll know this. It is still clearly and absolutely a Captain America movie. This is his movie. And they make that very clear from start to finish. And they do that very well. And you want to be careful about doing that because you have all these big headliner characters, right? You got Thor, you got Iron Man, you got Captain America. These are headliners. And you never want to make one headliner look diminutive in another guy's movie. So you bring Iron Man into Captain America's movie and still say, but this is he is the forefront. This is Captain America's movie. Then all of a sudden you've got your one headliner. You've put him in a bit of a diminutive role, and you want to be careful about doing stuff like that. So anyway, lots of different things going on with that. Let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Kai Watson, who writes, hello, everyone at AMC. I just wanted to know your thoughts on the trailers for the Seth Rogen and Zac Efron movie, Neighbors. I saw Neighbors this week at CinemaCon in Vegas, and I'm not allowed to say a thing about it. I'm not allowed to say 1 ounce about it, about whether I liked it or didn't like it or whatever. So I'm going to try to talk now just as somebody who has only seen the trailers. I think the trailers are hilarious, and I think this movie looks great. I'm very excited about it, about this film and about it hitting AMC theaters everywhere. And, and I've said this too, about the Zac Efron thing. This is reminding me a lot about the Matthew McConaughey thing. For a very long time, for years, I would be telling people, take my word for it, Matthew McConaughey is one hell of an actor. One of the best in the business right now. He's great. Now, this is all before Mud and before he was cast in Interstellar and before True Detective and before Dallas Buyers Club. This is before all of that, all right? I would say that. And inevitably, whenever I would say that, you guys, you would mock me. You'd get on the chat board and you'd get on my Twitter and you'd email me, John, you don't know what you're talking about. McConaughey, the all right guy, the guy who doesn't know how to make a movie without popping his pecs and all that kind of stuff. And I would say, and the guy who's been in this bad movie and this bad movie and this bad movie. And I'd say, look, never confuse a bad movie with a bad performance. And never confuse a good movie with a good performance. And I'd say, yes, Matthew McConaughey has made some mistakes in being in some very bad films. But when you just watch him perform, this dude's awesome. Watch him in Amistad. Watch him and I'd list some other films. This dude is a special actor. I would say, and everybody would mock me and mock me and mock me and mock me. Guess what? Nobody's mocking me anymore. Because now that he's been in Mud, Dallas Buyers Club, he's got an Oscar. Everybody loved True Detective and all this kind of stuff. Now it's like McConaughey is awesome. And I'm like, I've been telling you this for years that he's awesome. Just watch the performance. Don't worry about whether the movie itself that these guys are in are good or not. Look at the performance. Now, the reason I bring all that up is for the Zac Efron thing. I am completely on board with Zac Efron. I'm telling you this right now. Efron is a hell of an actor. And I remember the first film that really made me notice how good he is was this little film. I sometimes forget the actual, the exact name of the title, but I believe it's Me and Orson Welles is the name of the film. It's a smaller little film. He's in it with Claire Danes. And he's outstanding. I thought his performance in that film was outstanding. And then he's been in a couple of other smaller films and some not so good. But when you just watch his performance, he's really quite good. And I'm telling you right now, I believe Zac Efron is going to be around for a long time. I believe Zac Efron is going to be around for a long time as a serious to be contended with actor. And I think he's really great. And I think he's got great comedic timing as well. So I'm really looking forward to it being for Neighbors being in AMC screens. I think you are going to look forward to it as well. That's all I can say about Neighbors. So listen, I'm going to take one more mailbag question. And then I'm going to go to Twitter. And once again, if you're watching live right now and you want to get a question in on Twitter, go to Twitter and tweet your question to @AMC Movie News. So tweet your question there, and I'll grab a couple of questions before we end the show. But before we get to that, once again, hop on Twitter, tweet to AMC Movie News. I'll take a few questions live. We got one more mailbag question to take. And that next question comes to us from Teo Starro, who writes, I was wondering about Daniel Radcliffe and Benedict Cumberbatch, both up-and-coming stars who have had numerous successes. I was wondering if they could ever achieve the grand prize for acting, the Oscar. Thoughts? And keep bringing the filthy. Thanks a lot for the question, Teo. And I have two different answers. And once again, these are just my personal answers. Benedict Cumberbatch, yes. He is a remarkable thespian. He is a very good actor. Whether you watch his Sherlock Holmes stuff, you saw him in Star Trek, you saw him in that little espionage movie that was just out about the WikiLeaks stuff. I can't remember the title of it right now. Not a good movie, bad movie as a matter of fact, but his performance was pretty damn good in it. He's got several other big projects coming out and really being sought after by a lot of directors to work with him right now. You can just tell, it's what I call the eye test, right? You can just tell by looking at him when he's performing. This guy has something very, very special as an actor. He's already done exceptionally well, and he will continue to do well, and he will only get better. And I do believe that between now and 20 years from now, Benedict Cumberbatch will have an Oscar on his mantle. I have a different answer for Daniel Radcliffe. I think Daniel Radcliffe has turned into a pretty okay little actor. If I were a director, I would have no qualms having Daniel Radcliffe in my movie. But that being said, I don't see that same special spark in him. I don't see that same level of talent. Now, granted, Daniel Radcliffe is still pretty young. He's not Harry Potter anymore, but he's still pretty young. But I've just seen him in a number of things that I just thought, man, he could have been better. I mean, yeah, Woman in Black was a bad film, so you don't hold him responsible for that. But aside from it being not such a great film, I didn't think his performance was all that special. This little independent film he did that I was really looking forward to called Horns, finally had a chance to see it. He's not that great in it. And besides not just having his best day, I don't see his performances that he's given so far as giving any indication that there could be big future leaps and growth. You never know, though. Like I said, he's still young. You never know what could happen. He could turn out to be amazing. But if you had me to put money on it right now, my guess would be no, Daniel Radcliffe won't ever be considered, an A-lister, a go-to guy, a bankable star, somebody who could contend for an Oscar one day. I do think that for Benedict Cumberbatch. I personally don't really think that for Daniel Radcliffe. All right, so that will do it for the mailed-in questions for AMC Mailbag. I'm going to turn to Twitter now. And remember, these are all just coming in live. I have not screened these questions. I am not prepared for these questions. I will do the best that I can. So let's go over here. So let's hop over to Twitter now. Got my Twitter stream open here. And let's see here. Right at the top here is from Ezekiel J. Decker. Where did Ezekiel go? Who writes, what do you think the story for Horrible Bosses 2 will be? Well, we already know that the new bosses are going to be Christoph Waltz, the Academy Award-winning actor from Django Unchained and from Inglourious Bastards. He's awesome. And his son in the film will be played by Star Trek's Chris Pine. I think this is an awesome duo. And you know what? Not a lot of people love the first Horrible Bosses. I did. I unabashedly, I will admit right up front, I loved the first Horrible Bosses. I thought it was really funny. I walked out completely entertained. So, we don't really know much about it other than the fact that the new quote-unquote Horrible Bosses will be Christoph Waltz and Chris Pine as a father and son duo. To me, I'm already sold. You got me completely sold right there. I'm in for Horrible Bosses 2 just on that basis alone. But other than that, really, I don't know what the narrative will be or what the story will be. No inclination whatsoever. But I'm excited. I'm excited for what we got coming. Let's see here. Let's go to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Ashley, who writes, Zac Efron will be in Star Wars, won't he? No. I mean, it's possible. Look, this is one of those things, once again, where some website ran some story a while ago, completely unsubstantiated, completely not backed up, that nobody's confirmed, said, oh, Zac Efron's going to be in it. And then a lot of people just took it as fact that he will be. I mean, in hell, none of us know who's going to be in the new Star Wars. So is Zac Efron a possibility? Absolutely, he's a possibility, but no more of a possibility, no less than any other actor out there right now. Those reports that went around about Effron has been signed weren't true and certainly weren't confirmed. But is it possible? Sure, it's possible. It's also possible that Dane DeHaan could be it. It's also possible that, Jake Gyllenhaal could be in it. It's also possible that Hugh Jackman could be in it. All these things are possible, so don't fall over of shock if the announcement finally comes out about who the cast is for the new Star Wars, and Zac Efron's one of them. I personally think Zac Efron would be a very nice fit for the Star Wars universe. Might be a little bit of a distracting name to have in it at first, but we'd all get over that by the time December 2015 comes. But no, that report was not confirmed that he was in there. So, okay, let's go back to the Twitter stream. Let's see here. Let's see. Spoiler Talk is really going to put me on the hot seat here. He's asking, is Winter Soldier better than Dark Knight? Is Winter Soldier better than Dark Knight? I don't know. They're different movies. Captain America Winter Soldier is a very different film than any comic book film we've seen before. You remember a couple of years ago, the Russos were saying when they first started working on the next Captain America, they said this is going to be like a 1970s, 1980s, espionage thriller, political thriller. They weren't lying. Because to me, a lot of Captain America Winter Soldier, and you'll see what I mean when you see the film, to me it feels like a Tom Clancy movie. And I mean that in all the best ways. This Captain America Winter Soldier movie is a very special comic book movie. It's a very special comic book movie. I love it. And I believe it's better than the first Iron Man. Me personally, I think this new Captain America is the best individual Marvel film yet. Whether it's better than the Avengers, I need to see it a few more times and let it marinate. Maybe not. But you're asking, is it better than The Dark Knight? Now, I contend that Avengers is the best comic book movie ever made. Some other people will contend it's The Dark Knight. Either way, they're both excellent, excellent films. If you're going to ask me, is it better than Dark Knight? I got to take a pass. I don't know. Because remember, I've had a chance to now live with The Dark Knight for a number of years. And a lot of Captain America the Winter Soldier is still new impression. So give me a month. Give me another 2 months to really think about how I would answer that question, because right now I don't know. It's hard to imagine it being better than The Dark Knight, because The Dark Knight is just so good. But at the same time, this Captain America movie is really damn special. So I'm going to take a pass on that right now, okay? So forgive me. I'm going to cop out. I don't like to cop out often, but on this one, I'm going to cop out and take a pass. Let me know what you guys think once Captain America hits theaters here in North America, if you think it's better than The Dark Knight. All right, let's go back to the Twitter stream here. What comic book movie will win the box office this year? This coming in from Stomizer. I said this before, and I still think it. I think it won't be Captain America Winter Soldier. I have a feeling Captain America Soldier will be the best comic book movie of the year. Oh, damn it. I don't even know about that. I mean, Spider-Man 2, X-Men. Okay, I'm going to say I think the winner of the box office this year will be The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Out of the comic book films, I believe The Amazing Spider-Man 2 will be the big box office winner. The last couple of X-Men films have not blown up, and they've been profitable, but they have not blown up the box office. The first Captain America standalone film did not blow up the box office. Whereas The Amazing Spider-Man made over $600 million worldwide. I think this one is just bigger and better. The trailers, the marketing have been fantastic. I think people are very, very excited about the new Amazing Spider-Man. So I'm going to say the comic book movie to win the box office for this year will be The Amazing Spider-Man 2. All right, let's go back to the Twitter stream. I'll take 2 more here. Let's see. William Parcells writing, do you think Tony Stark creating Ultron could make Avengers 2 too Iron Man centered? Nah, I don't think so. I think the very first Avengers movie was really good at not making that movie anyone centered. Joss Whedon did one of the things that made Avengers so good was that Joss Whedon was able to take these 5-6 characters, 5 really, and give them all equal time. you cannot make an argument that Avengers is Captain America's movie. You can't make an argument that it's Iron Man movie or Thor's movie or Black Widow's movie or Hawkeye's movie. It's the Avengers movie. And I think that no matter what the story setup is, I think Whedon will once again do a great job of balancing out the story so it's not too one person heavy over another. So there you go with that. You know what, guys? I'm approaching an hour here, so I'm going to wrap it all up here and call it a day. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I think this is the first time we've had like over 1,000 people watching live just for Mailbag, and I only announced the Mailbag like 45 minutes before we went on. I only said, hey guys, we're going to do a live Mailbag today. And there's like over 1,000 of you in the live chat board. Thank you so much for joining us, guys, and talking movies. Remember, the idea about movies is that it's all subjective. You don't need to agree with me. You don't need to disagree with me either. It's always good to agree with me, but it's all subjective. And so it's all about your opinion and what do you think. So make sure you jump in the comments section of the video and leave your thoughts, your opinions on all the topics we talked about here today. I want to hear your thoughts. Keep it respectful to each other, to myself as well, because we're all film fans together and we're just giving our opinions. Thanks a lot for joining us. Listen, also, don't forget, lots of great films playing in AMC theaters right now. Head on over to www.amc theaters for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Click the thumbs up button. Give us a big thumbs up. Say you like the video. And also, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to our video here on AMC Movie News. That helps us out a lot too. Over 150,000 people have already subscribed. Thank you to all of you who have. But if you haven't, click that button to become a subscriber. So I will be back tomorrow. It's not just me who's coming back. John Schnepp, who has been in England all week. Well, if you follow him, I think you already know he's been in England with Tim Burton. Interviewing Tim Burton for his Death of Superman Lives, What Happened documentary, which is, he spent some time at Tim Burton's house this week. That's going to be great. So both myself and John Schnepp will be back tomorrow. Amy Rose Eisenbach will be in with us as well on AMC Movie Talk tomorrow. Make sure you come join us. We're going to run down the round 3 results of the March Movie Madness tournament and the round 4 matchups. It's going to be a big day tomorrow in studio, so make sure you join us. So again, thanks a lot for joining us, guys. My name's John Capia for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.